Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Austin Chapline, joined here with Castro. And today we're going to be breaking down 3 different ways and approaches that we use to sampling. If you're unfamiliar, sampling is the process of taking a piece of music from one recording and incorporating that into a new work, a new piece of music. So today we're going to break down 3 different approaches we use to flip samples.
And make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and hit that bell for notifications. Alright, so the first approach that I'm going to be showing you guys is looping. Looping is just finding a small section, whether short or long, of the sample of your choosing, putting it into your session, and like it says, loop, repeat, loop, repeat, loop, repeat, looping. If you really want to get good at looping, we suggest that you learn how to count out bars, whether it be 2, 4, 8, so on and so on. It really just depends on how long of the clip is. Alright, so this is a beat that I pulled up, probably made it about like 4+ years ago, and it's a prime example of looping. There is 2 sections that I pulled from the original sample, and here is the first. And then here is the second section. Alright, now I'm going to show you how I came up with these 2 sections. Alright, so right now I'm going to play you guys a sample. Immediately once I heard this section, I was like, yeah, this is the main section, the whole meat and potatoes of everything. Got that. I'll give you guys another listen. Boom, section 1. And I knew I wanted a second section somewhere throughout the beat, so I decided to use this beginning section. He does this variation in his vocals a few times down the road, but this one is the one that I chose because it's just a little bit bare. Ain't no need, he loved you right when I was wrong. Right when I was right when I was wrong. Boom, got that. And that one, I'll do the intro for you guys just so you don't get distracted by anything. Alright, so once I picked those parts, the first one, selected it to where I wanted to loop back, drug it into the sequencer, here it is, and I manipulated the time, made it a lot quicker so it would fit the BPM that I chose, and I pitched it up a whole octave. This is what it originally sounded like. Here it is pitched up. So then, as you can see on the mixer, I have all these different effects. A lot of these are for movement and to create room, and then the EQs were just to take out some of the bass frequencies so that my kick drum and all the other drums that I added could like shine through a little more. And for the second one, I basically sent it to the same mixing channel, so all the same effects as the first one, and did exactly the same process, sped it up, and pitched it up another octave again, just so you can hear. And then again, pitched all the way up. So after I got all those sections sitting the way I wanted them to sit, focused on the drums, and this is how they sound together.
So the second approach to sampling I want to show you guys today is called chopping. This is a classic technique used by a lot of old school hip hop producers, and a lot of times those type of beats start with the drums. So I started with this simple drum pattern. And while I did that, we found this sample, scrolled through a couple and found this one. So once I heard the sample, I knew that we wanted to pull this up, chop it up. I didn't want to go through and find a specific loop. I wanted to kind of hear different pieces as I was playing it over the drum beat, and that kind of helped me come up with the pattern for it. So here is how I found those first couple chops. So this is like the first note of the song, and right away I heard something there, so I was like, okay, I need to find another piece. So I duplicated it, and I found another chop on the second pad that sounds like this. And then I kept going through it, and I found two more chops. And just with those four chops, I was able to come up with the pattern that you hear in the beat. So here is those chops. So once we had that pattern laid down, we used chopping again, but this time we pitched up the sample. We still found a couple of different chops from a different part of it, and then we put some effects on it as well, and these are what some of the chops sounded like. So while playing the beat, we had just kind of messed around with some different ideas. And so we played around with that part a couple of times. This is the final part that ended up making the beat. So that just added a different layer to the beat. We used the same exact technique, but by pitching up the sample in the background, it made it feel like a completely different song, a different sample, but it was from the same song, just a different part, and had a completely different vibe to it because we had pitched it up, but we used that second technique of chopping on that as well. And so now with all those chops together, I'll play you guys the final product just so you can get a good idea of how those techniques fit into the beat all together. Okay, so the last approach we're going to show you guys today to flipping a sample is a combination of kind of what we showed, but it's called time stretching. We do that first, and then we use some of the principles that I just showed you with chopping. So we started with this sample. We found this 8-bar loop that sounded really cool. So here's the 8-bar loop. So right away, you can hear that the timing of everything isn't completely tight. A lot of people back then weren't focused on playing anything to a metronome like a lot of modern music. So I wanted to time stretch that loop to kind of keep it tight and then use one of Ableton's chopping functions that's done by beats to chop up the sample and potentially recreate a new pattern out of the sample. And so this is how I went about time stretching the sample. I pulled up Ableton real quick. You can do this in any DAW. The functions aren't exactly the same, but you can use the same type of process with warping and audio stretching. So in Ableton, I set it to warp real quick. I already have the beat pretty close to its original tempo, but I just know I have to clean up some parts. So then I'll play it now. I'll play it with the metronome. So I'll kind of go to some of the bigger beats in the song, the 2, the 1, and kind of just slightly clean those up. Yeah, this one's off. So I'll just go through and kind of nudge everything until that whole 8-bar loop plays a little bit tighter, so there's no snares or kick hits that sound really off. That way, when I use the Ableton rhythmic slicing, I can make sure that my chops sound really clean. Okay, so once we had it loaded up onto the push, I switched the mode to slicing. I switched slice by to beat because I had timed everything up so I knew my chops were going to be clean. And then I switched, within Ableton, I switched to the warping function so that no matter how much I changed the speed, it would hold the original stretching of the sample. And so if I played the loop back on its own, this is what it would sound like. So that's what it originally sounded like. But by having all these chops sliced up along here, I was able to come up with a completely different guitar riff. So this is what it sounded like. So once we finished those chops, it gave us the direction for the rest of the beat, and this is what the final product sounded like.
Thank you guys for watching, and let us know in the comment section of any other content that you guys want to see.
And if you haven't yet, be sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And if you're a producer, be sure to download my free loop pack. The link is in the description. Hope you guys enjoyed the video.